Haney Biz presents Entrepreneurs Unlimited. And here's your host, Mark Haney.
Sadly, the American dream is dead.
What's that, Donald? The American dream is dead. Wow. Do you believe that the American dream is dead? I mean, you might be disenchanted with what's going on in Washington, but nobody, not even Mr. Personality, that Donald Trump himself, the Donald is going to pronounce my American dream is dead. No chance. My dreams are red, white, and blue. And you know, sometimes they're not the driest dreams in the world. But I'm here with Marcus Haney right now. We are missing Tom Cisneros. Marcus, is the American dream dead?
I don't think the American dream is dead one bit. I mean, who has the ability to decide what's dead for you? I mean, come on now.
It's kind of an individual choice, right?
Absolutely. That's what I was like. Yeah, I mean, you can't tell me that the American dream is dead, Donald Trump. I'm sorry. Mine's going hot right now.
Well, you know what? This is not a political show, and I think Donald's trying to make a point that sometimes our freedoms are a little bit under attack in many ways, and so he's trying to make a shocking campaign statement. But you know what? Nobody takes away my American dream, and you know, as I think about our listeners and you, Marcus, and really all of us that are forward-leaning, what is the American dream today for us? It used to be, want to buy a house, right?
Well, I'm going to shift that back to you, Mark. What's your American dream?
Well, I mean, if I think back to my childhood, right, my younger brother and I used to lay in bed at night and dream about being rich, and you know, it was fun because we were always kind of trying to do the topper thing where I would say, hey, you know what? I want a big house with a circular driveway and a swimming pool built in. And, you know, he would try to top me by saying, I'm going to have a really hot girlfriend too. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have a hot wife. And so I think I topped him a time or two, and he topped me a little bit. But, you know, we reached some of those dreams in our early 30s. And now the dream really has shifted to helping other people to achieve their dreams. And it starts with the way you think. You know, it starts with the way you think. Is your philosophy correct? Okay, so let me ask you a question, Marcus. When I drive through a nice neighborhood and I would look around and say, gosh, who lives in these houses? What do you think they do for a living? Did they win the lottery, or you know, how did they get this kind of success? I mean, when you drive through a really nice neighborhood, what goes through your mind?
Well, it fires me up, I'm sure. I drive through a nice neighborhood, see nice cars, nice houses, the folks that are flying the American flag high and proud motivates me. It gets me excited, makes me want to go work out, work hard, and get there.
I think there's a lot of people, and I think this might be what Donald's trying to say, is that a lot of people feel a little bit disenfranchised. They go through the nice neighborhood, or they listen to a success story like coming up in the show, and they think, you know, it's not possible. And I think some people feel that way. But when I hear the success stories of Tim Berry or Uriah Faber or Kevin Nagel or Phil Oates or the guests on the show, it fires me up. It makes me want to go work harder.
Absolutely.
It makes me want to raise my hopes, raise my dreams. And I remember my dad telling me when I was a kid, he said, well, I was probably about ready to graduate. He said, never buy a lottery ticket. Dad, why? Never buy. It's a waste of money. I'm like, Dad, but it's kind of fun to dream about doing some, you know, having a lot of money. So I guess that would be, and now that I'm an older guy, I understand what my dad said, and I never have bought a lottery ticket, by the way. Well, actually, I bought one for a gift for somebody, I think when they turned 21 or something. But I took my dad's advice, and I never bought a lottery ticket. But I understand now that it's okay to dream about a better life, but it's so much more rewarding when you build it yourself, or when you are at least involved in the process. Because a lot of times people say, they wait and they wait and they wait and they just hope to get lucky. Well, I can tell you, my friends, I am lucky. And I'm very lucky. I'm lucky to have the people around me that I have. I'm lucky to have this radio show. And coming up in a minute, we're going to all be a little bit more lucky because we're going to meet two people that are really chasing the American dream and have achieved so much. Today we're going to hear from a man that is painting his way to a successful life, Mr. Kyle Lawson. But first, we will hear the story of a self-made success. We will meet Tim Berry, founder of Berry Lumber and Burco Redwood. I'm Mark Haney, and this is Entrepreneurs Unlimited, spreading the entrepreneurial message on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at haneybiz.com. Welcome back, and we have the privilege today of meeting Tim Berry, self-made success story, the founder and CEO of Berry Lumber and Burco Redwood. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm good, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you coming down on a Saturday morning. I know you left the yard and let the guys handle it back at the yard, and you're down here getting ready to share your story with us.
Yeah, Saturdays are that's a big day for us, so I like to be around.
Oh, okay. So, that's interesting. Is that your consumer stuff that's happening on Saturdays, or what happens on Saturdays at the lumber yard?
It's a combination of both. There's a fair amount of contractors that work on Saturdays, but that's an opportunity for folks that want to plan a project, and maybe they're going to build a deck or whatever, to sometimes meet their contractor there because we've got extensive displays. Or they come and kind of look around and kind of figure out what they want to do and then pass that information on to their contractor.
Oh, okay. Now Tim, could you give us just an overview of your organization? I know you have multiple things going.
So we've got really two different models that we operate. Burco Redwood is a fencing, decking, Trex, treated, siding, patio cover operation. We have two stores, one on Auburn Boulevard and one down in Riverside and Roseville. The second operation that we have is a very traditional Doug fir framing yard that we sell, what we call sticks and sheets. So you use those components to build houses, remodel houses. We sell a lot of siding and fascia and that type of product. Then within those businesses, we kind of have sub-businesses where we do a fair amount of remanufacturing and milling. So a lot of products that we sell, whether it be a Adirondack chair or a garden door, prefabricated products, we do that within Burco Redwood. So we do also operate a couple different mills.
And on Entrepreneurs Unlimited, we really want to get to know you, the entrepreneur, what's behind the business with you, Tim. And so I've described you as a self-made success and a self-made man. When did you become a man? Well,
I would never want to take all the credit for what's happened at Burco. There are so many people that have been a part of my life and that still are a part of my life right now. We have multiple 35-year employees. My children are involved in it. But, I, like a lot of other guys, never want to be the smartest guy in the room, but I do want to have a lot of smart people that work for me, and I'm privileged to have that. I think you become a man, at least in my business, when you fully understand the responsibilities that you have outside of making money, when you understand your commitment to your employees, to their safety, when you understand what they want out of life and you're willing to share that, and the commitment that you have to your customers to make sure that you absolutely take care of your obligation. And then the last component, which isn't necessarily the last, but it's also an important component, is your responsibility to the community. If you're successful, you have to give something back. You just can't take. And so you try to touch all those bases. But I think once you really get that concept, that's when it all starts to click for you.
And there's you and I have a family in our business, and with your business, it's a family affair. But you got this thing started way back when on a shoestring. Tell us about how you got started in the business.
Well, I was never a guy that was going to go to college. My dad owned his own business, and I kind of got that spirit, I'm sure, from him. Well, I know I did. And so I went to work for a local lumberyard. My father-in-law, who was a big part of my business beginning, as was my dad, he was an attorney for a lot of local lumber companies. And I went to work for one, and I just happened to go to work for a really magical guy. and he taught me an awful lot. And he operated a lumber company that was very busy, and it was a lot of characters work there, and it was a dangerous environment with an extensive amount of milling. And he kind of threw me in there. And
It's
I
like
really
a man's job, right? A bunch
Yeah,
of guys
it was.
rolling up their sleeve, getting dirty.
It was.
I can
And I
kinda
really
picture it.
gravitated to it. And at some point, he decided he was going to shut his business down. And so I, kind of put together what I could put together without overstepping my boundaries from people. And my dad found a very small lot on Auburn Boulevard. And my father-in-law, was very much in the business side of it and coached me up on how to do things. And in the beginning, helped us financially. My mother-in-law, my late mother-in-law, she was my first employee, and it was just her and I. And I knew how to operate machinery, so if I couldn't afford to buy 2x6, I'd buy 2x12 because then I could make 2x4 and 2x6 out of it. So it was pretty crazy, but just one day at a time. But it was a lot of work.
Now, when you first started, there's a story about getting that first, getting it going at the very beginning when nobody would give you credit and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, when I started, I don't know how much money I had, but it wasn't very much, and I had just enough to get the lot and to rent to buy a trailer that didn't have a bathroom. So we had to kind of do what we needed to do, and so I spent
Go
all
over
the
to
money.
McDonald's and use the restroom. Yeah.
And you put a sign that we'd be back in 5 minutes. God love my mother-in-law; she was a good trooper as well. But I didn't have any credit, and I didn't really have any money at that point, so. There's a local family here in Sacramento that owned a company called California Cascade, and they still are involved in it. Wonderful, dear friends of mine. And I went into their office and I said, I want to start a lumber company, but I don't have any money. And so they said, well, how about if we give you a load of lumber? And I said, well, it'd be great. I'll pay you every day for what I sell, but I don't have any retained earnings, and every day whatever I sell, I'll give you yours and I'll keep mine. And someday maybe I can buy a little bit more, or at least pay you faster. So a couple of days later, here they came with 3 truck and trailer loads of lumber, and I called them horrified and said, what am I going to do? And they said, just make it go away.
Just sell it, huh? And so you're day by day, and then obviously you've grown to a substantial company and a leader in the community. Was there a turning point where something just clicked?
I think that it's I don't know that ever really happened, and I don't know that, at least in our particular case, that it ever will happen. I think, every day you go in and you kind of seize the opportunity and you try to stay ahead of the curve of what you think people are going to want and try to grow your business based on that. But I don't know that I've ever had that magic wand that was waved at us that one day things just changed. Now, we've had a lot of opportunities that we've taken advantage of. There was an enormous risk with many of those opportunities, but that's what it's all about, to take that risk and try to develop a reward out of it.
How do you, when you consider risk at your age, is it the same as when you first started?
No, I don't think so, because I think your risk, your idea of risk, at least in my business, changes as you get older. When you're younger, the risk for me was always, can I make it financially? The risk today is more about all the moving parts. Safety is a big, big issue in our business. So that to me is risk. Vehicles, we operate multiple trucks. We have a responsibility to our customers when they come into our facilities. So when I identify risk, to me, it's more in those types of areas. If you're relentless and you don't lift, the money will probably take care of itself if you make good choices. It's those things that you can't control. That's where the risk is for me. And at my age, I'm probably more concerned about those issues.
And how do you, I'm guessing that you deal with some of this risk by being very hands-on. When we came down to visit you the other day at the lumberyard, you were in the middle of inventory, and you looked like you were one of the guys helping count. And then today you're talking about showing up on Saturday. How important is it for an entrepreneur to be hands-on?
I don't know how you can do something without being hands-on. I have the greatest employees that any guy or any family could ever want to have. So trust issue is never an issue when it comes to controlling things. But I don't know how you ever get people to work hard for you unless you lead by example. I'm not a guy that's going to sit in an office all day. We have plenty of people that do that, and they're very good at it. I want to be outside. I want to be with the customers. I want to be with our employees. I want to watch the risk. I want to control it. And, I think, too, over time, when you develop a business where you have a lot of repetitive customers, you got to be with them. You don't want to be that guy that they say, hey, where's he at? Is he around anymore? And even if you have good people coming. So, yeah, I spend probably 90% of my time outside. I do like to sell lumber. I love doing that, but that's an in and out thing. And, we kind of have our routine. And at the end of the day, I get together with the gal that runs our office and we talk about the business side of things. But
when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more with Tim about the success of Burco Lumber and Barry Electric and how his family is integral in the success, and his team is such a key part of winning. I'm Mark Haney. You're listening to Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at haneybiz.com. Welcome back, and we are here with Tim Barry, self-made success story, the founder and CEO of Barry Lumber and Burco Redwood. I think I inadvertently said electric in the last segment, but we're back here with Tim, and we've been hearing the story about, his company is a lot bigger now, but I'm going to flash back to when you first started, and I know there was a story of somebody throwing phone messages in your face. Can you tell our listeners that story?
Yeah, when in our first location, we were there for a couple of years, and I noticed up the street that a construction company had vacated a piece of property, and I really wanted that piece of property bad. It was much bigger, and it had a shop building on it and a nice office, and so I went to the company that owned it, and it was the Lund family here in Sacramento, Lund Construction, and so I called Mr. Lund, George Lund, who's now deceased, and I called him. I must have called him 100 times, and he never took my call, and he never returned my call. So I thought, well, I'm going to go find him. So I went to his office. And I got
track him down.
Yeah, track him down. I got there at about, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they said, oh, no, he's an engineering contractor, so he's pushing dirt, and those guys leave early. And they said, no, he's long gone. And so the next day I came back at 7, and they said he's long gone. And the next day I came back at 6, and they said, he's busy. He's not going to see you. And I thought, okay. So then I came back at 4 or 5, and he still wouldn't see me. So I thought, I'm going to go at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I pulled up to his parking lot at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm waiting in the parking lot, and here he comes. And, of course, I run out after him, and he knows who I am. He says, you're the guy that wants to lease my property. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, go sit in the office, and when I get done dispatching, I'll get you. So he brings me in his office, and he sits down. Very intimidating guy. I'm like 26 years old. I mean, I'm really intimidated of this man. And he sits down, and he says, you're the guy that's been calling me. And I said, yes, sir. And he's got a stack of messages that must have been 3 inches thick, and he throws them at me. And he says, you know what those are? I said, yes, sir. Those are phone messages. And he said, yeah, well, they're all from you.
Oh, boy.
And he said, tell me why I should lease that property to you when I can lease it to anybody. And I said, well, I won't pollute it, and I'll always pay you. And he said, okay. He said, well, this is the deal we'll make. You can lease it, and there's going to come a time when you're not going to be able to pay me because your business is going to go up and down, but you better call me. And then he started to ask me questions about construction and how I was going to do the yard, and every answer I gave him was the wrong answer. And so we made a deal on me supplying some rock and him supplying the equipment. And he said, in lieu of me supplying the equipment, you've got to replace the roof on the building. And I said, okay, Mr. Lund, I'll do that. And he said, I don't think you understood what I told you. And I said, yeah, you want me to replace the roof. And he said, no, I want you to replace the roof. And he said, you understand what that means? And I said, well, I'm assuming that you want me up there nailing those shingles on. And he said, yeah, I'm going to come by and check on you. And if I don't see you up there, then I'm going to charge you for all the work.
Wow. Well, you got the building. Obviously, you've built it into incredible success with multiple locations. And you've talked about your team so much. Tell me about the relationships in Barry Lumber and Burco Redwood that make such a difference for you guys.
I think everybody there pulls on the same rope, and they all wear lots of different hats. And I think because so many of them have grown up there, and they were as young as I was when I started, that I don't even really consider most of them employees. These are people that we've raised our families together. We've gone through fun stuff together. We've gone through heartbreaking stuff together, but we've always stuck together. And the economy comes and goes, the good times come and go, but it's been a family of people that really do care about each other and that care deeply about the company. I could never begin to tell you how much extra time these folks have put in to make this thing successful. And, I don't know how I could ever replace the folks that have worked for me and that still are there. And many of these people, like I said, have been there 35 years.
And who would you say has been the rock behind this whole thing?
Oh, definitely Barb. Oh, yeah. She's, I don't know how that's my wife. I don't know how you do this type of deal that we've done, or anybody, your business, Mark. I mean, we all kind of wear the same hat when we elect to do these things. And, you got to have somebody that really supports you even when you make bad choices, even when you fail, somebody that, that you can tell every bit of your success to, but really you can tell everybody your failure to and ask their opinion, and then have them be patient enough not to give up on you during the deal. And, she really has gone the extra mile, and it just wouldn't have happened.
I mean, what would you tell, if she was listening right now, what would you tell her?
She is listening right now.
Hi, Barb.
I'd say, hey, I'm probably not going to get home today again until about 4, but I'll get there and we'll have Sunday together. So it's just, it's another day at the office. But she knows the way I feel about her, and she knows what she's done. And, I probably couldn't put it into words because I'd probably get a little sappy, and I'm sure you're not looking for that.
Well, you know what? I think we have a lot in common. I've actually cried on the show. I sang to my wife on this show. We've been married 30 years. I actually sang to her on her 50th birthday, and that was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. But I did it anyway. But you guys have a family business. You've got 3 children in the business. You've got a ton of employees, but these 3 play key roles in the business.
Yeah, they do. My oldest son, Chris, or our oldest son, Chris, runs our Roseville operation, and I give him all the credit in the world for that yard being a success now. That thing really started with nothing as well, and he's done an absolutely wonderful job. And he's been through the whole gauntlet. He started when he was in high school and, putting lumber away, and drove a forklift and drove a truck and learned machinery and learned purchasing. And now he can read financial statements and cash flow projections and inventory turns, as well as take care of customers. He's a lot like me when it comes to being interactive with the customers. My son, Michael, was a school teacher, and he taught high school for 2 years and then at a private school for a year. And thought that was a dream that he wanted, to be a high school teacher and a football coach, and then decided that he wanted to be a part of the family business. So he works at the Barry Lumber Yard, and he purchases lumber, and that's a very commodity-driven business. So that business, you really have to be on top of your game when it comes to purchasing, because the folks that you deal with in Sacramento, our competitors, are absolutely smart people, and they know what they're doing. And I've only done that model for about 8 years, and Michael's a big part of it. Kimmy comes here. She does all of our radio stuff.
Oh, that's right. You guys are on KSTK all the time.
Oh, yeah. And so she's very involved in it. She does our social media stuff. She helps me with events, that we do for customers. And she's got 2 daughters, and so her plate's full. But, if you don't mind, I do always like to touch on people that work for me too, because, I never would want to prioritize anybody. We've got a guy that's been with me for 35 years, a guy named Julian Marzo, and probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met. I mean, he really is a brilliant guy, and it's really good for him to mentor to my boys and to Kimmy. And, and that's an invaluable deal. So when I look at my family, I do look at the kids and everything, but, I also try to look at the employees.
We talked at the beginning of the show about the American dream. Is the American dream dead?
No way. We live in the greatest country in the world, and there's no place that I could even begin to think that how you could do the what we've done, how we've grown our business, how If you want to work hard, if you're passionate, I do have a saying that passion is not part-time. You're either in or you're not in. And then once you get in, you can't complain about being in. You just have to be in and realize that the sacrifice is going to come. But that being said, the rewards can be so great. But is the American dream dead? No way. I would never, ever even remotely listen to that nonsense.
Passion is not part-time. You heard it here on Entrepreneurs Unlimited. I'm Mark Haney. Coming up, we will meet a man chasing the American dream with a paintbrush in his hand. Get ready to meet the talented artist and entrepreneur, Mr. Kyle Lawson. Again, this is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com. All right, and welcome back. And we are here with Kyle Lawson, artist, entrepreneur, and a hell of a great guy. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming down to the studio. I know you inadvertently went down to our offices in Rockland, and but you made it down here. So
yes,
thank
sir.
you for. Let's try to make it worth the confusion. So sorry about that confusion. Anyway, let's talk about art.
For sure.
Art is a business, and you are a heck of a great painter. Talk to us about your artwork.
Oh, you are too kind. Bless you. Let's see. Art is kind of a different business because it's almost like you're selling what comes from your heart. So it kind of makes it a different business model.
So you say comes from your heart. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, the things that you're creating, the things that are going on in your life that are translated onto a canvas or onto a work of art, it becomes part of you. And so when you're going to present that to the public or get it out there in the world, then it's kind of a little bit more of a personal game than other types of business.
Is it hard to part ways with something that's such a part of you? You're selling the paintings, or in some cases you're donating them. How tough is it to part ways with something you love?
Yeah, to me, I think that's the whole purpose is with creative expression is being able to take what's going on inside of you, all the different layers of your character, your depth, and your subconscious, and being able to put that out there and let someone else enjoy it and let someone else take that and bring that into their life and decide what that means to them.
Yeah. And now I met you at an Allegiant Giving fundraiser, and you were kind enough to donate a painting. And when I saw that painting, it almost made me feel like I knew you better, and I didn't even know you. It's a painting of the American flag, and it's sitting here. And for those of you that watch us on YouTube, you can kind of see the flag and what this is. But this is a flag that I think brings out something that's important to me, and it's really the American dream, right? This flag, to me, I see that and I think about all the things that I want and all the things that are great about this country. Now, what does it do for you? Why paint that? Because it's a unique flag and it's very cool.
Yeah, the flag is such an amazing symbol of freedom, freedom of expression, non-discrimination, and the freedom to be yourself. And I feel like we have an amazing privilege being in America to be able to create what we can dream up.
Yeah. Now, what is your American dream? You obviously still believe in the American dream. What's your dream?
Oh man, my dream is just to continue to love the Lord, surround myself with my family and my wife, and just continue to grow in relationships of love and trust with others.
And okay, so talk about those relationships. Who's the key relationships in your life?
I'd say I'm blessed with such an amazing support staff in my life. A few years ago, my life took a turn, and it took me all the way down to basically I was homeless. I was addicted to methamphetamines. I was on the streets.
Oh man.
And I had to reinvent myself, and that took a lot of effort and a lot of prayer from my family and friends. And I was able to overcome this only because of them, only because of their unconditional love.
Now, many of us as entrepreneurs, we run into obstacles that are. Well, I mean, everybody in life runs into tough things, but
Yeah.
you were kind of at a rock bottom there.
Yeah.
How did you? What did that look like?
It was a very dark place, and but sometimes you can discover great things about yourself when they say you don't know that God is all you need until God is all you have. And being able to take your mess and turn it into your message, flip it on its head and be able to use it for good. I just took it as an opportunity to reinvent myself and kind of change my heart and tweak it so that I could build myself on a platform of trust and love and responsibility to my friends and family.
And who was, beside yourself and the man upstairs, who was most helpful at that time?
My father came down and showed much grace, pulled me out of my struggles, set me back on my feet again. It gave me the opportunity to reinvent myself.
What would you say to your dad right now?
Oh, man, I love you, Pop, more than anything.
Wow.
Bless you.
So, advice to entrepreneurs or any of us that go through these, go through low moments in our life, what advice would you have for us?
I'd say that all of us, little by little, we can build great things. We just layer by layer, day by day, making the right decisions on a daily basis. Over time, we can put ourselves on the right path. And what path that we travel on decides where we end up. And basically, it all starts with making those small, wise decisions on a daily basis.
And okay, so let's talk a little bit more about your art. We've got the flag here in the background. No, you talked about behind me a little further is a California flag, and then there's a lion. Or I'm looking behind me. It's pink. So is it a lioness? I don't know the difference. What do those photos mean to you, or those pictures mean to you?
Yeah, these are all just different expressions of myself put onto canvas. Basically tapping in the backgrounds of all of my works are kind of a creative freestyle expression. It's kind of tapping into an instinctual freedom. And basically it's layering and layering of personality, layering of experiences, building this kind of compositional balancing act that we all face in life, that we all face in our businesses. In relating to others, it's all a game of layers. It's a game of balancing different colors and harmonies.
Well, let's talk about balance in life, because, I mean, as entrepreneurs, it's tough to juggle everything. And I've heard of the term starving artist, right? Where it's not an easy business to be in. What's a day in the life look for a guy in your shoes?
Yeah, that's so true, man. For me, my relationship with creativity is kind of like a balancing act. Many times creativity can be like a beast that I've got to tame. It's got to be respected, because if it's not in proper check, it can kind of take over your life. It can take over all of your priorities and kind of convince you that it requires precedence in your life.
So a day in the life for you,
Yeah.
though. You get up in the morning. What time do you get up in the morning?
Yeah, I get up about 5:30 or 6.
Yeah, you get up early, and I know you've got multiple jobs,
Yes,
and
sir.
you're still painting. How do you juggle it all? How do you do that?
Yeah, I juggle it just by hustling. You got to put in the extra time and the extra hours, and if it's something that you love, then that's what you'll go the distance for.
And what's the payoff look like for you,
Oh man,
long term?
the payoff long term is amazing in a way that I'm able to work with such big-hearted people. I work with a lot of charities and a lot of great causes, and being able to interact with those people and meet like-minded individuals, that's what drives me.
So what's right around the corner for Kyle Lawson? What can we look for in the near future?
Oh man, I just plan to continue to grow my faith, in my relationship with others, continue to balance the chaos that is the art business, and just continue to thrive in the city and continue to make a place and bring people together and just promote inspiration and a positive message through my work.
If that's not painting a picture of the American dream, I do not know what is. I want to thank Kyle Lawson for sharing his story. I know that couldn't have been easy to share that, Kyle, but you're doing great things for our community, for Allegiant Giving, which is a charitable organization that I helped found. And I know you came out and you've helped us. You're helping other charitable organizations. You've got a huge heart, and I can't thank you enough for joining us today. I also want to thank Tim Barry Lumber, Burco Redwood, and his inspirational story about community and family and the team that he's built over at Burco. And now I want to take a chance to lighten it up a tiny bit and talk about our sponsor, Limitless Limo. Now, Limitless is doing great things out there. I know they're running all over town today. I think they've got beer tours, wine tours, bachelorette parties. It ain't no ordinary limo ride. It's Limitless. So I want to thank Limitless, our sponsor, and I want to talk a little bit about next week. Next week, we really have a unique opportunity to meet a husband and wife team that are building a business that is very, very close to my heart, and that business is baseball, and baseball season's coming. We're going to meet Dave and Shauna Wells, the owners of Bases Loaded. Coming up after the break, though, you're going to hear my closing thoughts on the American dream. This is Haney. This is Mark Haney, Entrepreneurs Unlimited, spreading the entrepreneurial message on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at haneybiz.com. You know what? I've enjoyed today's show so much. Met two great guys, and talking to Tim, that's built such a strong company, and we asked him the question, Tim, when did you become a man? And I thought his answer was interesting and impactful because it's when you first realize that you need to take responsibility for things beyond yourself. I think so many times there's a wake up call that happens, and I think his happened while it was right in the middle of his business. He has the family going, he's got the wife, he's got all these responsibilities, the employees. So when did your bell ring where you said, oh man, this is it. It's time to step up and become a man or become an adult, if the women out there listening. When did the bell ring? When did that light bulb go off? When did the innocence of childhood suddenly appear in the rearview mirror? I'm here with Marcus Haney, and we're talking about the American dream, and you got to take responsibility for going and getting it yourself. So, Marcus, when did you become a man?
Great question. I think, I became a man when I became a father. And I think the first time I realized I was a man was on my way to my deployment in Afghanistan, when I knew I had to lead 11 other men, bring them home safely, and was responsible to their families and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, such a wake-up call, and so many of us, Kyle Lawson talked about, a time where he had to rebound and take responsibility for his life. You were helping take responsibility for other lives. And there's those times when it's time to step up. And I think we all can kind of look back at some point and say that's when things change, whether it be having a child and whether it be leading men into combat.
When would you say it was your time that you discovered that you were a man?
You know what? I'm still trying to discover. I'm still looking for that moment. I think when you said having children, I think my wake-up calls happened around the responsibilities associated with having some mouths to feed, and like Tim had the small business that I was running, and just trying to trying to put it all together, and it's like I guess it's me. It's time to grow up a little bit, and but I think I'm still kind of a kid at heart. So in some ways, I'm still kind of growing up. But if you think about what stage in life you're at, because I'm not in the same stage in life. I think Tim and I were in our early 50s. We're kind of in that third quarter of our life, and I'm talking to Kyle. He's probably in the second quarter of life. Right. Marcus, you're just entering the second quarter. So, what stage of life are you at? What quarter are you in? Because I think we have to do a self-check at some point. If you're still a young man, if we have some high school guys in here or some younger people listening, hey, maybe you're still if you're still relying on your parents to pay your way through college, look, you're still in that first quarter of your life, and that's okay. But there will be a time when you decide, I guess it's up to me. And I would suggest that the sooner you decide that, the better you are. The sooner you begin to understand that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Right. And I know that's a little cliche, but it's so true. I mean, I remember when I was at the end of my first quarter of life, right? I was in my early 20s, maybe 19, something like that. And I remember this TV show. Back then it was infomercials just first started coming out. And there was this one guy, Ed Beckley, and he would say, watch what unsuccessful people do and don't do it. And he had that squeaky voice that I'm trying to copy a little bit. But watch what unsuccessful people do and don't do it. And I started thinking about, what do people that are not winning, how are they different than people who are winning? Because there's patterns that end up happening with people that win. There's commonalities. And I started watching people. And I noticed that people who were having a little bit less success had some commonalities as well. And I noticed that a lot of people in this world, and I notice it today, are complacent.
Right.
There's a lot of complacency. And I think back to when I was in that first quarter of life, right before I bought my first house. I think I was 20, and thinking about the American dream. I used to like to drive through the nice neighborhoods, and that would motivate me. I would get excited and think, what do these people do for a living? Are they entrepreneurs? They're obviously successful. How do I do that? And it made me want to work harder. And so at that point, after watching, what successful people do and then watching what some less successful people were doing, I decided I'm not going to be complacent. I declared war on complacency. I began not accepting the status quo, and I cruised through high school. I was the C student with a social life and focusing on sports and having fun. But you know what? I grew up somewhere along there, and I think if you think about the victims, people who have that victim mentality, it's always somebody else's fault. And gosh, I don't want to be like that. Or the procrastinator who just puts things off to the future. And I know sometimes I'm like that, and I know that's not how you win. And there's other people that just sort of get, hey, that's good enough. I don't have that high of expectations, and their dreams really aren't as big. And so I think that complacency is something that we all fight, and it's something that all businesses have to deal with their team. I think it's what all entrepreneurs have to deal with at different times in their lives. So what I would say is regarding the American dream, we do need to avoid complacency as a country. And I think Donald Trump makes a shocking statement, but there's some truth behind his call to the American people that we need to think a little bit differently. So, I mean, I think the country we live in is much better in a lot of ways from a lifestyle perspective than it was back when I was a kid. I mean, you look at the neighborhood; it's twice the nicest neighborhoods now are at least twice as nice. The transportation is 10 times as cool, and the communication is obviously it's 100 times as fast. There are so many great things happening in our world, and I think we got to take advantage of it. and we got to live with the dream in mind at all times. And I'm going to hold up Kyle Lawson's photo that he painted for me of the American flag, and on the side of it, you will see that it says, never above you, never below you,
Always
always by your side.